Hey there, and welcome to Concierge Medicine Radio, your source for actionable advice and real stories of physicians running and growing concierge practices. For more interviews and notes on today's show, please visit conciergemedicineradio.com and enter your email. Now, let's join your host, Taylor Pearson.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Concierge Medicine Radio. Really excited to bring you another great interview. Today I talk with Dr. Bruce Feldman from my personal Doc NY. Dr. Bruce has a concierge practice he's built from scratch based out of Long Island, New York. So we talk a bit about how he built that practice from scratch and some of the lessons he's learned starting de novo, why he believes the hybrid model is a poor choice for concierge physicians, and we go into some of the math behind that and kind of what informs that opinion, the importance of developing a culture based around service in your office. And that's another fact that he thinks is a strike against the hybrid model. Also want to take the time for everyone that has left us a review on iTunes. We do appreciate that. We got a great review from Michael Garrett, who said, Taylor Pearson's Concierge Medicine Radio is very helpful. He has good interviews with pertinent questions that provide a lot of useful information for physicians interested in a direct care model. Helpful tip: the Concierge Medicine Radio website has summaries of the interviews with links to the websites, books, or other resources under discussion in that episode. So thank you, Mike. And yes, we do have show notes with everything that gets mentioned, as well as some of the highlights of the show on conciergemedicineradio.com. So please check those out. And if you enjoy the show, please do take the time to leave us a review. We appreciate it, and it helps get the word out to more people that are interested in private medicine and direct care and concierge. Just a quick note here before we get started. The show does end a bit abruptly. We both had to run at the end of the interview, but lots of great information. And so without any further ado, let's get on with the show. Then tell us a little bit about what you're up to now, what your practice looks like, and what you're doing.
So I'm almost up to that point. So basically, I was given the opportunity to continue in that practice, use their space, but they built such an overhead it was untenable. So I'd moved to Long Island, decided I was going to do my job where I live. And I decided to start off fresh, so to speak, and develop the practice from zero. And when I mean zero, I literally only knew one person out on Long Island in the business community. And in retrospect, well, even at the time, I didn't think it was a great idea, but it was the idea that I wanted to pursue. And it's been very challenging. And if you talk to any of the consultants, they will tell you starting a concierge practice from scratch is a bad idea. Because there are plenty of people who, frankly, can't work down from a full practice and make a full practice into a fully functional concierge practice. And that's from an 85% of your clientele. So to go from zero up is a lot harder to go from 100 down to 15 or so.
So tell us a little about that. Yeah, how have you built the practice then? Because that is a pretty daunting challenge.
Slowly? Yeah, it's been very challenging. So I started with, first I had to get to know some people. I didn't know anybody. So I started networking. And I'll be the first to admit I haven't done it all correctly. I was focused on not generating huge overhead. In so doing, though, I should have been more aggressive in the marketing arena. But the problem has been partly, so the way to do it is really to, find a space, figure out how to do it cheap, and then market the hell out of it with every last penny you have. And I didn't do that early on. So the build has been much slower. Now, some of that is a consequence of defining the program. And unless you know exactly how you want to portray yourself, that can be a challenge.
How did you manage to keep overhead low initially? Were you doing house calls? Like, did you have an office space right away, or?
Yeah, you can get an office space for cheap. It's not that big a deal. I only need, I'm doing what is essentially in the vernacular, I'm really doing a micro practice. So, it's one office, one room, and I'm mobile. What does an internist need when it comes to supplies? realistically, it's a conversation 9 out of 10 times. I mean, most of the people just want to talk to you. They don't even want to come in necessarily.
So would you say that your biggest challenge in building the practice up to this point has been marketing or bringing in new patients? Or what has been your biggest challenge?
Yeah, bringing in patients, sure. Finding the appropriate people. And because I don't take insurance, that you have to develop a higher level of trust before you get people attaching,
So how have you managed to do that?
Showing up.
Yeah.
People know who I am. I have some advanced technologies that offer differentiation. Started to do some holistic things with a couple of other providers who also have advanced technologies that are not commonly available. And, as an integrated program, it's starting to get some traction at a higher frequency, let's say.
So is there a particular demographic that you're seeing kind of form your patient base?
The folks I'm going after really are folks of, I'd say, entrepreneurs who have been successful or folks in a corporate environment. Those are the target, audience.
And you mentioned you were doing some special services. Like what kind of services are you doing to draw those kind of guys in?
Well, I mean, I go to these networking events and I meet people who get to know me and get to know what I do. And, saving lives here and there doesn't hurt any. I do this cardiac test that is really a great opportunity. I mean, there's sort of a business opportunity behind that as well, where the device itself really it's a stress test without being a stress test, and it's far better than being a stress test.
Is that one of those heart rate monitors, or what is that?
It's there, run on a blah, blah, blah.
Is it one of those heart rate variability monitors, or is this something different?
No, it's different. No, it's a kind of signal average EKG, only that's only sort of half the story. It's a new technology. It's a nonlinear system analysis applied to an EKG with a database tied to angiograms. So there's it's really a huge boom. It's a great device. It could be used broadly as for atherosclerotic screening. It's the fastest way to find out if you're having a heart attack, period. Better than an EKG, better than a lab test, faster. You can have the answer in 7.5 minutes. Company's Premier Heart.
Wow. What's the name of the device or the company?
The device is called an MCG, or multifunction cardiogram. And if you had anybody who wanted it, you should send them to me.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll put your information up, so anyone that's interested can definitely contact you.
It really is. One of the little-known things, women who have a nuclear stress test are more likely to get the wrong answer than the right answer, regardless of whether that answer is you pass or you fail. And unlike the MCG, the MCG is actually, in a Medicare-aged woman, 99% negative predictive value and 97% positive predictive value. So those are unmatched numbers.
Take a step back here and just rephrase. One of the major ways you've kind of gotten this practice off the ground and gotten it moving is you've niched down, I'm going to say, into like a very specialized market. So you said, in your case, entrepreneurs and business owners, then you're offering kind of some selective services that they couldn't get anywhere else, like this MCG device. And is there anything else you're doing with them?
The cardiovascular analysis that we do is done in a number of places, but not specifically the way we do it. The other part of the service is I go to them. For the most part, I can see you where you want to be seen. You're seen on time. It's a retainer-based practice, so I'm at your beck and call, not the other way around.
Looking back now from kind of what you know now, would you have made the transition gradually instead of trying to start from scratch?
Well, I didn't have that choice, though, so it sort of doesn't matter.
Okay. Would you recommend other physicians do it that way? They kind of move from their existing practices into a hybrid model kind of slowly?
I don't think that makes any difference.
Okay.
The hybrid model is kind of a joke on some level. For me, for example, a regular person without chronic disease, my fee might be $1,800 a year, right? So the standard practice in this area is charging $1,800 a year. My $1,800 is your total fee. If we see you, I give you a bill, and the bill goes out of network, and it goes back to your insurance company. Any money that comes out of that goes back to you. The hybrid model is taking your $1,800 and whatever money the insurance company will pay, and it just covers your copay. So, ultimately, from a pricing perspective, it's the same, or on even less money. The term concierge medicine is a wastebasket term, and it means about 1,000 different things to, 500 different people. The hybrid model comes in varieties as well. So most of the time, the conversation about a hybrid concierge practice is there's two ways it usually shakes out. One is what I just described, which is hybrid, meaning I'm a retainer-based, but I take your insurance, or you have half of your practice is insurance and half of your practice isn't. Half of your practice is you're paying an additional stipend for premier service, whereas the other guys aren't. I don't think that's a good plan, personally. I think that, number one, either you're going to provide people service or you're not. Figuring out who gets what and then changing the way you do it, it just doesn't seem right. What are you going to give? Somebody's getting lemon-flavored water in this office, and the other guys are getting whatever they can. These guys get fancy couches. These guys get the folding chairs. I mean, what? What are you doing? They get the morning appointments, and the other guys have to wait online. I don't know. It's just wacky. I don't think it works particularly well. I think it alienates people. People aren't necessarily going to convert from one to the other. Plus, you haven't flipped your office from the mindset of we're doing this, we're a premium service, we're providing the best we possibly can. No, we're just going to, for half of our people, we're going to do this. But the other half, for a quarter of our population, we're going to do this. And then the other 3/4, we're just going to treat them like crap. I mean, I don't understand the thought process.
Trying to start from scratch like you've done, is obviously very difficult as well.
I can tell you that the majority of conversion companies, I think, and I don't know if I might be talking out of turn here. I don't know this for a fact. But from my conversations in the past, and maybe they've done better jobs of this recently, but the feeling is if you're going to be real about it, then flipping over completely probably makes a bit more sense.
Okay, and that's what the consultants have told you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had those conversations. The idea really is that you're trying to develop a culture in your office. To be successful, you've got to deliver on service. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right, that's what you're marketing. You're marketing that kind of superior level of service.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, what are you marketing? You're marketing okay, so you can play over here with, the riffraff, or you can pay a little extra money and come to the Gucci side of the house. A lot of people just find that offensive on some level.
Yeah.
So the people who are playing on the riffraff side have no interest in going to the Gucci side, because if they did, they'd already be there. They feel like they're getting shortchanged. You're better off making a clean break and just getting the people. Now, what happens in the conversion is you have people who are dedicated to you as providers.
Mm-hmm.
When that's the case, then, the likelihood of getting people to come over for an extra fee is relatively high. So a young practice tends not to be able to do that. You've got to be at a point where the people in your practice, more or less care as much about you as a provider as they do about themselves, which is an unusual circumstance. There's been findings that people will convert to a different doctor on a $25 copay. The difference for $25. So that's a little crazy.
So in a way, it sounds like what you're talking about is, it's by doing this kind of concierge model, you're decommoditizing yourself in that way. It's what you're really selling is your relationship with the patient.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the standard concierge model, 100%. You love me. I want to take care of you. But for me to do that properly, I need more than the insurance company is willing to pay. costs, you need to hire between 3 and 5 people just to run the insurance part of the equation.
Yeah, I've seen some of those numbers. The overhead is unreal.
For one doctor, okay? You know, when I left practice back in when I left my Massachusetts practice in 1995, last year I think I billed $450,000 to take home like $185. Okay? That's pretty standard even today. I mean, the average internist in the Northeast makes $182.
And that's just all that overhead you're seeing as a result of basically just the man hours it takes to file these insurance claims.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the right. So you've got, I mean, what are your overhead categories, you know? I mean, office salary is going to be the biggest piece, you know, followed by malpractice and whatever. But I mean, think about that. If I don't have to pay, you know, if I have 3 people even making $30,000 a year, that's a $100,000 difference.
What's the most common mistake you see doctors moving into concierge making? If you could kind of advise them, what would you say to most of them?
It's a guarantee that they think that everybody loves them and that everybody will follow them. And they don't go fully out of their way to explain why they're doing it, to get buy-in, and to know before they flip the switch that they're going to eat. And then they have to maintain that level of attention and scrutiny to make sure that all is continuing to be well as they move forward. You know, it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's an ongoing process. And if their office is screwed up, then guess what? They're going to have a problem.
So how would you recommend they do that? Is it just communicating with patients, or?
I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, the consultancies that do these conversions, some of them are better than others. I can't tell you which one is the best or whatever because I haven't gone through the process. I do know that a lot of times what they'll do is they'll essentially they'll take a chunk of money up front and they'll take you through a 6-month process that has a very good way of they obligate certain steps along the way within your office, confirming things. They have town meetings of the practice so that people get to understand why you're doing what you're doing and whether or not that it's for them and how are they going to benefit and all that sort of stuff.
Well, do you have any recommendations if someone's considering using a consultant? Either a good situation.
Yeah, I would find out if there's any post-conversion marketing or support once the switch is flipped, because that's where the stuff goes south. So it's very easy to look really good up front, right? And get everybody to sign on, and everybody agrees, oh, yeah, we'll do this. And then when it comes time to write in the check, are people really still standing there in enough numbers to make it viable? And many times, if you haven't done a good enough job explaining yourself, and if you haven't done enough work to convince people that they're getting actually a good deal, then you're going to end up coming up short, and then you're going to need to mark it back to strength. So that's different from starting at 0. But if you need to be 15% of your initial volume and you only make it to 12 or 10, you're going to have to build up some more people back. And you need to be able to do that. And if there's a company that you're attached to, the question is, do they do that? Or are you on the hook for that all by yourself?
So the most important factors you would look at if you're working with a consultant. How effectively are they going to help you move your existing patient base into a concierge model? How effectively they're going to help you market that concierge model after you've made the transition to continue growing it?
You know, one of the things that we didn't touch on, for example, is we're developing a program. I'm working with a guy talking about being outside the box. We're going, you know, really holistic and utilizing some more Eastern medicine kinds of stuff to really get beyond the traditional model. And we use some biotechnologies that really work at a cellular level. We're working with a guy who does some neurobiofeedback that can impact migraines and depression through basically biofeedback of your brain, and then some what's called bioresonance technology, which is widely used in Europe to evaluate things at a tissue level that Western medicine not only doesn't treat, but actually denies exists.
So do you feel like the concierge model gives you a little more freedom to operate, or how would you say that?
It's a cash business. And all you need to do is, people are coming to you, they understand it's a cash business, and then it's a conversation about the value for them. I used to talk about my practice, and I used to say, why is it that we expect better service at Pottery Barn than we do in our doctor's office? And my implication was that there should be some outrage that you get treated like garbage when you go to the doctor. Now, that's not always true, but, I heard it again today, an hour and a half office visit for basically 5 minutes with the doctor. That's ridiculous. So the problem is that is the expectation. People have adapted to that. They don't even know another choice exists, and they don't see their time being valuable in that same way. So you have to offer them something that's more important, which is their personal health, and not being treated like a number, and not feeling like you're being treated like a number, and understanding why the doctor is doing what they're doing or why they're not doing what they're doing, and then you having an opinion as to what makes it important or not. Ultimately, I don't treat you. Ultimately, you treat you. I give you the tools through which you can be treated. But if you're not buying in, you're not getting treated at all.
Right, so going back to what you were saying, that one of the biggest problems here is kind of a marketing and a patient education thing, because you have to educate them, how this model is different and what the benefits are to them. So you said you've gone to some networking events. Are there any other kind of specific examples of how you've been able to do that? I know some doctors have talked about holding weekly educational seminars for people in their community, trying to get on TV, doing things with their website to educate potential patients. Have you tried any of that?
Yeah, I sort of do all of those things. It's not an easy proposition, there's all of these little pieces resonate with different people in different ways at different times, and figuring out which one of those, piques somebody's interest. My office is a little bit different, again, because, you're just talking about Joe average doctor who's really tired of getting basically raped by the insurance company in the process of trying to deliver service, and they feel that they can't really do it in that environment anymore. Mine's a little bit more proactive insofar as I'm trying to develop a different kind of practice, a different kind of medicine, and to really grab people's attention and excitement around prevention and solving problems before they occur, and finding the disease and stamping it out before it's even a disease.
What it sounds like is that perspective is what's made you successful in growing this practice. You're kind of attracting those kinds of people.
Yeah, that's what we're shooting for sure. People who are, the guy who's pretty healthy but isn't sure, the guy who takes care of himself, who wants to make sure that he's doing everything he should be doing, and if he's not missing anything. 25% of the people go on to have a heart attack have normal cholesterols. Hey, the president of Samsung just had a pretty significant heart attack in Korea, right? They have modern medicine. You can't tell me one of the richest guys in the world who has one of the most powerful companies can't figure out how to take care of himself. The opportunities are there. They just have to look for it. People don't know how to take care of themselves. People think they're being taken care of. They're not being taken care of. Their symptom is being addressed here or there, and the symptom is really just a manifestation of stuff that is bubbled to the surface. It really doesn't talk about anything. Did you know that the average 50-something-year-old man on my heart scan will come up with moderate coronary artery disease? Basically means that there's enough cholesterol in his artery to cause a problem. And then it becomes a question of, okay, now we know you got the cholesterol. What's the other stuff that's going to blow you out of the water? Do you have that or not? People don't even ask that question. The stress test misses 86% of the people who go on to have a heart attack. Yet that is the standard of care in this country for evaluation of your cardiac status. That's an absurdity. There's a lot of stuff that needs to change, and the insurance company has no interest in doing that. The medical industrial complex that is American medicine has no real interest in changing that paradigm. So unless you move outside of it, you got no leverage. As a population, we're just getting screwed. So,
Bruce, you're obviously very passionate about this. What would you say to other physicians that maybe feel the way you do about the direction medicine's going and want to do something different but perhaps don't have quite the tendency to leap off as you did and just start from scratch? What kind of advice would you give to them?
I tell you, I think it's really it's a huge challenge. Huge challenge. One of the things that you can do is you can start up on a personal level in a part-time practice, see if you can extract yourself, day at a time, and try to develop a program that's outside of your bread and butter and then convert over time. I think the way to go for people who aren't necessarily going to go a concierge level, per se, would be a direct pay practice where you pay, a modest amount of money every month and just develop a clientele that, affords you the ability to make a living and eat. So, if you're going to make, 182.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit, the differences you're drawing out between direct pay and concierge? I know that's a point of confusion.
Yeah, so like I said, concierge medicine is really just a basket, wastebasket term, really, for folks who somehow don't go through the regular system, okay? So it's originally a practice that had a higher, may have a high price point to get in. Maybe it's a retainer-based practice. Maybe it's a direct pay practice outside of insurance. Maybe it's a concierge as in, I'm going to help navigate the healthcare system for you. It's a referral management program. Maybe it's a house call doctor program. Maybe it's expertise that are available somewhere else. Maybe it's, I'll meet you in Florida because you're so sick, I'll fly down and meet you. I mean, there are programs that do that, $30,000 a year, you can get almost anything. We'll fly our medical team to you. So, there's a whole host of places and programs that you can put into different buckets. And the wastebasket is concierge because it's not the usual. So when you talk concierge, that it's a guarantee you're confusing people. So direct pay is you pay me, period, end of story. And there are different ways of doing that. You pay me monthly, you pay me biannually, you pay me annually. You could pay me at the time of visit, but we tend to shy away from that. Because the idea is, I want you to come and see me in a preventive mindset. Well, if you have to pay me every time, then maybe you'll put it off. But if you pay me twice a year and you call me when you need me, or we exchange emails, or you come in when you need to be seen, then suddenly I'm at your behest and not the other way around. So to make the average salary in this neck of the woods, you need about 350 people. If you're running a low overhead shop, 350 people is $50 a month. Maybe 400. But that's not a big number compared to, 2,500 or 4,000.
Right, which is what a lot of practices are running at these days.
Correct. And when you're seeing, you're seeing 400 to 600 people, your lifestyle, the control of your environment is much greater. You have satisfaction, and frankly, the patient has satisfaction, because the studies all support the fact that if your doctor's unhappy, pissed off, tired, you're going to get that level of service. The happier your doctor is, the better your quality of care.
You can go to conciergemedicineradio.com to get this episode's notes and links to everything we've talked about, as well as the entire back catalog. For those of you working on bringing in new patients or retaining existing patients in your direct pay or concierge practices, we've also got a new report on the 5 keys to marketing for direct pay and concierge physicians.
After asking physicians across the country about their biggest problem, I kept hearing the same thing come up. Patient education and marketing. How do we help patients understand what we do? So I put this report together after interviewing dozens of the most successful concierge and direct pay physicians across the country for the stories and tactics on how they've been able to generate dozens of word-of-mouth referrals each month, find more new patients through speaking opportunities, get featured in their local press, and use their website and online presence to educate their patients and grow their practice. So if you'd like to read their stories and see how to use them to help grow and retain more patients in your practice, you can download that on our site. Talk to you next Tuesday morning.
Thanks for joining us today at Concierge Medicine Radio. If you found today's show valuable, we'd love it if you spread the word by leaving us a review on iTunes or sharing it with your friends. To see notes on today's show, please visit us at conciergemedicineradio.com. While you're there, leave us your email to hear about all upcoming episodes.